Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Thursday, October 1st, 2020, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, it's Thursday. That means it's GMing Tips Day. GM, DM, referee, moderator, facilitator, crypt kicker, tomb talker, however you put it. GM's just an overarching term. I'm a DM primarily because I run first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm not one of those people that takes offense and somebody says GM. I hope you're not either. That would be against the spirit of gaming to not look past that little something. Hey, by the way, happy Dave Arneson Day. It's my understanding that today would have been his 73rd birthday. We lost him, I guess, 11 and a half years ago. It's a shame. It was not long after, a year, just a little over a year after we had lost Gary. And both of them were far too young. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It is, good morning, George. Good to have you. Henry, if you're still here, Prometheus Bound, and Hobbsy. You were here, but now you're gone. You left a post to carry on. You're not here now either. Okay. Well, maybe you'll come back. I know that new time has thrown a few people off. 10 a.m. now for the show is the standard time, 10 a.m. Central. Just works out better for me, as it turns out. We tried to do it auspiciously with our 200th show just this past Monday, a few days ago, and which also happened to be the 6-month anniversary of the show and the cancellation of GaryCon, because that would have been the Thursday, the 26th of March of GaryCon. The store, the game store, Lake Geneva Games, closed that week. All sorts of crazy stuff happened as everything went sideways. 2020, what a year. We'll be remembering this one as the year that somebody said earlier today. Hey, Bob, thanks. Mr. Armitage. Somebody said earlier today that they were dreading the season finale of the year 2020. And I quipped, if you thought social media went sideways when Game of Thrones ended, wait till you see the storm that follows 2020. Because I got a feeling we ain't out of the woods yet. This is the first day of the fourth quarter. Right? A lot can happen in the fourth quarter, as we know from the Bears game last Sunday. And I know my buddy Ernie, my friend Alex, are big Bears fans. Gary was a Bears fan, so keep that in mind when you think about things. Try to put things in perspective. Anyway, it's Dave Arneson Day. Roll some dice. I mean, even if you can't get together and game with some friends, bust open that Appendix A of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition and roll up a random dungeon. populate it. Get something going. And don't populate it right away. Roll up some characters. Sounds like a lot of work, right? Sounds like you ought to be playing a video game instead when you start doing all that. But I tell you what, there's something cathartic about rolling some dice, especially when you haven't done it for a while. And hey, I gotta say also, and let me pop back over to this screen for a second because I want to spring a little surprise up in here, just as a yeah. Okay, I see what I'm doing here. That's how I am. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Look at that. What do you think of that? Arden Vule. The halls of Arden Vule. I'm just gonna pop that off there for a second. We'll go back to that. We'll get that down. We'll roll this over. Oops, where are we at? There we go. No, not that. Arden Vule. So this is a mega dungeon that was made by our good friends Joe and Susie, and others, of course, who do the whole Expeditious Retreat press thing. Anyway, for a couple of days, there we go. Look at that, classy. That's what this show. When you think of the OK Grognard show, I know your first gut instinct is to think classy, but I just want you to think, hey, semi-useful. And that's enough for me. I got an email from Expeditious Retreat Press to say that for 48 hours, the halls of Arden Vule. Which way? This way. It's going to be on sale, 50% off. I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes so that everybody knows. It's huge. It's insanely huge. You can go check out on Drive-Thru RPG Expeditious Retreat Press and see the some of the maps involved in this thing, and it's a wonder. It is a great big old mega dungeon. And you know what? You could spend a lot more on a lot less material for gaming. This is the kind of thing you could snatch this thing up, keep it on a hard drive, and then when you're making dungeons down the line, just cherry pick some encounters. Now, granted, the whole thing, you could run this whole thing, and you would have years. You could start a campaign that would last for years and be all intricate and interwoven with stuff you discover one time, and then weeks, months later, it all fits into place because you know this now, and you know this now, and you know that. This is the kind of thing that a mega dungeon does that nothing else can, is create a sense of continuity in a campaign. Just amazing. And this is I've looked through this thing. It is incredible. So yeah, but even if you don't have time for mega dungeons, let's say you don't have a group that you can get together, or you don't feel like putting together a group that could do this thing, you like to do one-shot adventures, you like to you're playing here, you're playing there, you play at a game store, you do some things at game days, you do some things at conventions, but you never really have a regular ongoing group. You can jump in and out of this thing. It's John Hirschberger, great DM, runs Janelle Jakeway's excellent Caverns of Thracia, that first edition adventure that she put together so long ago, which a lot of people think of as the one of the earliest, if not the earliest, mega dungeon. And he runs that year after year at GaryCon. It's just his regular thing. Now he can run it elsewhere too, but for those of us that get a chance to jump in on his game at GaryCon every year, and believe me, you should grab a seat in it sometime. His Caverns of Thracia game. And you know, we're just one of many, many groups that take the plunge, get in there, do what we can, get the heck out, hope we survive. And it's not an ongoing campaign, but it's a mega dungeon, and we're visiting it, and we're exploring it, and it's a lot of fun. So you can use it like that, or you can, like I say, take it and cherry pick bits and pieces of it as you build up other things. Get some good ideas for traps, or for puzzles, or for encounter combinations, or certain designs of architecture for certain areas of a dungeon. Just endless. Just endless. So go check it out. I'll put a thing up in the show notes for that, and we'll be ready to go in a little while. But today is about spell acquisition. And when we talk about that, we're talking about stuff going on in the 1E first edition DMG. Boom. There we go. And when we talk about that, looks like a nice resource. Right on, Lexfire, absolutely. I might get that. I find stuff like that as ideas that can be adapted to other genres as well. Yeah, that's true too. I shouldn't look so narrowly at it as if it's just something for building other medieval fantasy dungeons. Certainly, Arden Vul can be informative and inspirational in for other genres as well. Certainly, tricks and traps and just modes of thinking, right? And puzzles and riddles and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, here we go. Where are we at here? Acquisition. So we should probably start up here. And this is probably going to be an ongoing one that we can discuss periodically. GMing tips are going to be in the form of making some comment about what's going on with the rules in these cases, because I find that people play this a lot of different ways. And so maybe me discussing some of what I do would be helpful. Let's dive in. Character spells. Day-to-day acquisition of cleric spells. Whole other section on magic users and stuff. Digging deeper. It is well known to all experienced players that clerics, unlike magic users, have their spells bestowed upon them by their respective deities. By meditation and prayer, the clerics receive the specially empowered words which form the various spells possible for them. Although, as with the spells of magic users, the utterance of any given set of key sounds not only causes the desired spell to take effect, but it likewise wipes the memory of the sounds from the mind of the utterer, as each set of sounds is an energy trigger. See spellcasting. We won't dive back that far into the rules aspect of it. Maybe that's something for rules retrospective on Sunday, but enough to say that it's that classic fancy and system, and we know how that works if we play any D&D at all. Of utmost importance, then, is the relationship between the cleric and the deity. Now, we're going to get into some sticky stuff here when it comes to some people's views of religion and stuff, and I want to say right at the outset, this is not about real-world religion. This is a game. How it manifests within the game has nothing to do with real life. If that's something for you to jump up and down about, please do take your trampoline somewhere else, because this ain't about that. To continue, each cleric must have his or her own deity, so when a new player opts to become a cleric, including a druid, You must inform them as to which deities exist in your campaign milieu. Oh, Questing Beast loves that word. And allow the individual to select which one of them he or she will serve. This will not necessarily establish the alignment of the cleric, so at the same time, the cleric player character should also state his or her ethos, not necessarily to the other players. It is then assumed that prior to becoming a first level cleric, the player character received a course of instruction, served I'm not sure how to pronounce that, novitiate, I believe, and has thoroughly read and committed to memory the teachings of and prayers to his or her chosen deity, so that the character is dedicated to this deity and is able to perform as a cleric thereof. Italics. It is this background which enables the cleric character to use first level spells. Okay. Quite a bit to unpack there, I suppose, right? I think one of the main things I want to focus on when it comes to tips is once they've chosen a deity, once they've chosen their alignment, let's be clear, in my own games, and you could do what you want with secretive players. Hey, Grail Knight. Hey, thanks. Thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. Look at you go, man. Hope your channel's going well. Are you still playing beating up mechs over there, or what are you doing these days? Did you switch over to No Man's Sky? I think some other people are playing that these days. Anyway, secretive players. I'm not a big fan of players having secrets from one another. I prefer them to play their characters as if their character does or doesn't know something, even if the player does. Because that's got to happen anyway. Absolutely. Just, let's take this situation for example. So-and-so knows that this other guy's not coming tonight because he's got a date, or he's got dinner with his family and can't make it to tonight's session, so he steers the game toward going to a place where certain treasures can be had that they're aware of, that he knows that if the other player is there, there's going to be competition for choices on particular items. There's this great sword over there. He and I are the only two fighters that can use a long sword. And so I'm going to go there with my group tonight knowing this player's not there, because then I can take the sword and it will be mine and they won't have a choice. So there's certain metagaming that happens like that that shouldn't. This boils right down to this whole thing. At the same time, the cleric player character should also state his or her ethos, that is, depict their alignment, parentheses, not necessarily to the other players. I don't think that should be secret information. I totally think people should be able to pass their character sheets around to other players at the table, and another player should be able to look at that and know what their character would know and not know. If there's a bunch, do you know that so-and-so's got 12 iron spikes? If they're wrapped up and in a backpack, no, you don't know that necessarily. Did you see them pack their backpack? So at what point when we're playing does somebody get to say, hey, I'm almost out of torches. Hey, I saw you had 3 torches written on your sheet. Well, maybe those are just strapped to the outside of the backpack so the other player character knows that stuff. Now, what about alignment? Are there certain tells? Are there certain ways that you can know, at the very least, that someone isn't the same alignment as you, if not know what their alignment is? Maybe this is easier in games I run, because I don't allow people to be of evil alignments, and I strongly urge people not to try to play chaotic neutral, because I find it to be very disruptive, because I like running games for people that want to be part of a team, and a heroic team at that. I want them to play. So when I run a game, that's what I want. I know some people will yell and scream and kick their little feet and say, hey, don't you want to know what the players want to play? The player can play whatever he wants. But if I'm not enjoying the game, why do they want me to have to run the game for them the way they want the game run? Goes two ways. I want them to enjoy themselves. I want whoever plays in my game to enjoy themselves. And I want to know that the players who are in my game want me to enjoy myself. So they naturally, if they really want me to enjoy myself, want me to run a game I want to run, and only want to be in it if it's a game they're going to enjoy. So, state up front what your game is. GMing tip. Make sure people know what it is they're getting into so that down the line they aren't overly surprised. There should be surprises, obviously, but not metagaming surprises where they find out later, oh, I just thought I could eventually, if I died, play a monk. Well, no, not in my campaigns. I don't, in my particular setting, monks as a player character choice of class doesn't exist, so sorry. I've been playing for 6 months. I just assumed. Well, no. I state all that stuff up front, make sure people know. I want people to be aware of what my particular game is styled as ahead of time. So in that regard, no surprises. Anywho, that's one of the biggest things from that paragraph that I want to state is a GMing tip to make sure that you're very upfront about how secretive players can be with one another. Certainly characters, within characters, secrets can exist from one character to another. And that's all good. So we got DDs, we got alignment. Furthermore, continued service and activity on behalf of the player character's DD empower him or her to use second level spells as well, but thereafter another agency must be called upon. So, first and second level cleric spells, cleric just has to put in the time and the work. Boom, boom, boom. I can learn these spells. I can cast them. Clerics, and a lot of people don't read this DMG very closely because they don't understand at certain levels things change. Cleric spells of 3rd, 4th, and 5th level are obtained through the aid of supernatural servants of the cleric's deity. That is, through meditation and prayer, the cleric's needs are understood, and the proper spells are given to him or her by the minions of the deity. That is to say, angels, demons, in case I don't run evil, but let's just, some people do, avatars, great powerful sages. Somebody is being contacted through your prayers and meditations. Somebody, middle management, is being contacted, and you're being granted the ability to cast 3rd, 4th, or 5th level spells through that contact. 1st or 2nd, you're initiating it yourself. 3rd, 4th, 5th, you need to contact somebody. And cleric spells of 6th and 7th level are granted by direct communication from the deity itself. There is no intermediary in this case, and the cleric has a direct channel to the deity from whom he or she receives a special power to cast the given spells of these levels, 6th and 7th. How many games are run in a way that takes into account how 1st and 2nd level spells are learned and obtained and cast, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then 6th and 7th on yet another level? Lesser clerics then draw upon their education, training, and experience to gain spells, just as higher level clerics do when they renew their 1st and 2nd level spells. In order to gain 3rd, 4th, and 5th level spells, however, higher clerics must reach intermediaries with their respective deities in order to have these powers bestowed upon them from the plane of their deity. When clerics become very great, they must petition their deity personally in order to receive the powerful words which enable the casting of 6th and 7th level cleric spells. It is obvious, therefore, that clerics wishing to use 3rd and higher level spells must be in good standing. This is an important thing. You often hear discussions about how clerics won't be able to cast certain spells, won't be able to cast any spells if they offend their deity or switch alignments or whatnot. This is basically telling us that by the rules, they could still cast 1st and 2nd level spells. So even if they've done something that gets them drummed out of their order or causes their deity to turn their back on the not so faithful, that 1st and 2nd level spells aren't out of the question. If they have not been faithful to their teaching, followed the aims of their deity, contributed freely to the cause, and otherwise acted according to the tenets of their faith, it becomes unlikely that they will receive intermediary aid unless they make proper atonement and sacrifice. There can be no question that such clerics must be absolutely exemplary in their activities, expressions, and attitudes if they dare to contact their deity directly. So 6 and 7 level spells, you better be a perfect example of someone of that particular faith. In the former case, where the unfaithful cleric desires 3rd through 5th level spells, the minions, angels, demigods, or whatever will be likely to require the cleric to spend 2 to 8 days in prayer, fasting, and contemplation of his or her transgressions, making whatever sacrifices and atonement are necessary thereafter, before freely granting those powers once again. Sacrifice and atonement will probably be left to the discretion of the cleric, and it is possible that the minions of the deity will empower him or her with spells to complete these steps, but the cleric had better do the correct thing or face the consequences. In the latter case, where the unfaithful cleric desires spells above 5th level, the deity is certainly going to be highly displeased and absolute. The deity, and I don't agree with this parenthetical, you, the DM, I don't like the way that's phrased just because it makes it seem like the DM is not a referee, not a facilitator, but rather, in this case, being put in an adversarial situation, and I don't like that, will point out all of the transgressions, state a course of action which must be followed to regain good graces, grant the spells which the deity deems are necessary to complete the course, but never in excess of those which the cleric could normally use, and pronounce anathema upon the cleric until satisfactory redemption has been made, i.e., the cleric cannot again call upon any help from his or her deity or its minions until he or she has regained the favor through a course prescribed by the deity. So you got to make amends. A cleric who is at this or any juncture changes deities is going to have a difficult time. His or her former deity will mark the cleric. The new deity and associated minions will be suspicious. Once a cleric changes deities, he or she must therefore be absolutely true to the new calling, or he or she will likely be snuffed out by some godlike means. It is 90% unlikely that a cleric's first deity will accept him or her back into the fold after falling away, unless some special redemptive agency is involved. There is no salvation for a thrice-changed cleric. He or she is instantly killed. Any change of alignment which causes such a deity change is applicable unless the change is involuntary. See Changing Alignments. Note that the above applies to paladins with respect to their clerical spells, powers, and to rangers with respect to their druidic clerical spell powers. All right, so definitely you want to create some hoop jumping You need to find ways, though, in the cases of these, to keep everybody at the table involved. That's a GMing tip worth noting. You don't want to have everybody else sitting on their hands while you're working out how they are going to be saved. Certainly, you can create quests or missions for them to fulfill, which will require the help of all their followers, all their friends, rather. Um, Perhaps there are some hopes that they will convert some of the other members of their adventuring band to follow that deity as well as part of their atonement, at least making the attempt. Now, you don't want to saddle your campaign with the idea that if so and so doesn't convert, he won't be able to adventure with so and so anymore, because you still want all the players to have their own free agency, right? You want them to be able to make their own choices. That's part of what a game is all about. But at the same time, you can say that that cleric needs to proselytize a lot more to try to convert other characters in their adventuring band and NPCs and those around the town and so on and so forth. How much time are you spending trying to convert other people? Let's get with the program, as it were, and see what you can do. Well, I'll tell you what. Big Clock on the Wall wants to say that it's about time to go. So let me say this. Happy Dave Arneson Day. Thank you for joining us today. It's very much appreciated. I do also want to say, get some dice rolling in today, because on Dave Arneson Day, that is pretty much a requirement. Don't forget, tomorrow and every day, 10 a.m., you can join us here. Building Adventures tomorrow, that'll be part of virtual Greyhawk Con, and GM reviews on Saturday, and rules retrospective on Sunday will all be programs as tied into virtual Greyhawk Con. Don't forget that Saturday I'll be running. I think there's one seat left in that first edition in Setting the Giants game I'll be running on Saturday. So if you want it, scramble, go get it. Monday, weekly news and announcements, cartography and world building on Tuesday, campaign discussion on Wednesday, back around the horn to GMing tips next Thursday. Again, thanks very much. It's always a good time getting a chance to pontificate on the rules in one way or another. It's what I do, and I enjoy it, especially when it comes to first edition AD&D. Well, this has been the OK Grognard Show. If you're on YouTube catching this, please do subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Maybe make a comment if you have some constructive criticism to help make the show a little better. It's always appreciated. The OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.